So we were just sitting here talking about the book of lists from the Business Times and kind of contemplating, we fall under the category of advertising, marketing, and PR firms. And we've made the list now a few years in a row, which is feels great. But I don't feel like any of those really accurately describes us. And that's what we took the time to make a video to talk about a little bit today. What makes us a little bit different and unique than a lot of these other companies on this list? Because every agency in town, they have their specialities. They might be best in class at one of these things. And some of the larger agencies, and even the small ones, they're good at, multiple disciplines of marketing or advertising or PR. And our cross section and like kind of our nomenclature, what makes us unique and different is kind of hard to articulate. And I think it's the fact that we innovate a little bit and have some interesting services and things we've put together just because we're always trying to solve for our customer that are probably worth talking about and sharing a little bit because some of these things are so new, you don't even find them on our website. So Micah, John, and I from the team, we were talking a bit today. Figured we could do real quick intros and then get into sort of the topic of the day, which we're going to call what the hell is RevOps? Because it's a buzzword that I think people in the industry know, but the typical end customer, you say RevOps and they look at you like, what's that? Sounds cool. So that's kind of where we're at. We're just rapping about it a little bit and decided to hit record. So Micah, what the hell is RevOps? This crazy RevOps thing we've been doing for some of our customers that is a bit different than your typical ad agency or marketing agency or PR firm.
Yeah, so making it plain and simple, trying to cut through the noise around the buzzword of RevOps. Like, what is it? At its core, when you cut back everything, it is looking at your go-to-market teams, so sales, marketing, and customer success/service, aligning those three teams in a way that makes them more efficient, better aligned in communication, and have better reporting across the three of those teams, utilizing a combination of business processes, tech stack, and then training enablement and all of the additional services that go into each specific team. So on the sales side of things, sales enablement, helping with lead qualification, standardization of the sales process, and the passing back and forth of what is a qualified lead and was this lead qualified when marketing gives them a lead. On the marketing side of things, it's making sure that the systems are in place and automated to take in leads well and generate leads, and then go through the process of figuring out, okay, well, this was why this lead is qualified or why we think this lead is qualified, and then passing that off to sales and saying, hey, we think this lead is qualified, and getting that feedback as to whether or not it is or is not. And then, in some cases, looking at the dollar value of leads moved over or the quantity of leads moved over between departments. And then on the customer success/service side, it's looking at retention of customers or additional upsells, cross-sells, and customer service metrics like CSAT and NPS and how that relates to the broader customer journey throughout those go-to-market teams. And so really end-to-end reporting on revenue, but also customer experience, and just getting a better handle on how things are happening. And so that, like I said, happens through a combination of business processes, technology, and then the mediums and services that are introduced on the back end with each of those teams.
Awesome. I think you froze there for a split second, but that was a great summary. So sales, marketing, and service are kind of the three top level, I guess, macro areas, any business really that drives, those are the things that drive revenue, right? That's where the term comes from, RevOps. Sales ops, marketing ops, those are two more fun buzzwordy terms that you hear a lot these days. And one thing that you mentioned that I think is interesting and relevant is we don't just work on the reports. We actually look at, if you look into each of those silos, sales, marketing, and service, that's where the creative part comes into play, right? And I've always been fascinated with where creative kind of meets technology and how little tweaks on either side can make such a huge difference. That weird combination of like art and science, right, that goes into business because it has to look good, right, in order for it to work. But you can't measure how good a design is because that's so subjective. You can measure ROI, though. You can measure sales leads, MQLs, SQLs, revenue reports, that sort of thing. So I think that's kind of what I wanted to get out of this chat, was like how we help sort of do the design and creative work, but also build the systems that help even hold us accountable, hold our clients accountable. And there's one other thing you said in there that I think is really unique in the agency world. A lot of our thinking and the things we do, we're instead of measuring in terms of like trying to win an Addy award, right? Like, which we have, we measure in terms of like, what's the best cost to impact, right? Like, and it might be creating a look or feel that helps sell better, but it might also be helping to save sales reps time, right? Like, they don't need to answer the phone anymore. We can build AI solutions that do that for you. They might not have to retype that email every time because we can show them how to use a shared template system where the newest sales rep is using the same templates and snippets of text that the best sales rep has kind of championed, and basically create that rub-off effect. So, John, you talk to people every day about the CRM, and I know you and I and Micah as well, and a few other folks here, we all use it. Why don't you talk a little bit about how having some of these tools and the conversations you see, really the transformation, which is another thing I really enjoy seeing when they come to us and the sales users are like, oh, we don't want to use that. We don't want to put our info in there. And then 6 or 7 months later, after some training and assistance, of course, getting everything implemented, they find new workflows that kind of, in a way, let them spend more time with customers versus wrestling systems. You see that firsthand probably more than all of us.
Yeah, I do quite a bit, and I think it all starts and stems back with that traditional silo approach. We all were in organizations that were like that at one point in time because technology hadn't advanced to that point. But to Micah's point, and I think one of your favorite quotes is "Sunlight is the best disinfectant." So when you're looking at a RevOps approach versus that siloed approach, you can actually start to diagnose and see what's working, what's not working, how do we get better at it. That's really the essence of what we're doing, but we're layering in technology as well. I think, firsthand, the folks that make that transition, right, it's a difficult change for any organization, and the larger the organization, the more time and money and resources it takes. So it's a tough decision. But the ones that do, to your point, Chris, months down the road start to go, we should have done this a long time ago. It's easier to make money. It's easier to make sales. It's easier to generate leads. When those tripwires start going off and people start to see the sunlight, they're like, oh my gosh, this is great. Let's do more. And it really starts this tumble into how do we optimize fully across the whole organization? I think that's really, at its essence, what our agency does. We're able to kind of build the systems, the processes, and then bring in the creative to say, how do we make this stand out and how do we make it noticeable so that it is effective? And then we can really measure everything. And I know, KPIs and ROI is such an important thing to any client out there, but starting with the foundation instead of jumping to the tactics, that's what I tend to see a lot of times, right? I need LinkedIn advertising, or I need a new website. And we have to sit back and say, why? It's usually leads are down, or we're not closing as much sales as we used to. And once we find those things out, we can take a step back and look across the whole ecosystem and say, okay, now we know what to maybe work on first and start that process of success.
Yeah, sometimes the creative is the problem or the hook or the offer, and other times it's tech stack or lack thereof, and just really, making sure everybody knows, what are the processes that apply to them and how they all come together. Right. One example we thought of sharing was a big win we had recently for a client that came to us and was very curious and was really an open book. Don't want to reveal exactly who the client is, but the way it all started was their website was being held. It was hijacked by their own agency or development team. So they read one of my blog posts from like 10 years ago about what to do if your web agency or developer's holding your website hostage. Long story short, in that case, we couldn't rescue the site and we ended up rebuilding it. And then from there, it kind of opened the door to, advertising services and creative services. So we redesigned it, liked it a lot better. Hey, what else can you do for me? We ended up building some ad campaigns. Worked pretty well. Actually had the fun problem of getting too many leads. How do we follow up and keep up with all these? So we put a CRM in place. The ad budget started to increase as the ROI was proven with dashboards and reports. And we actually innovated an AI-based solution to follow up with leads who filled out the contact form via SMS and even answer the phone. Since his lead qualification system, we boiled it down to a 4-step process. We knew there's 4 things he needed to know to decide if a lead was sales ready. And we trained an AI agent to answer their phones and ask those 4 questions and have those conversations, and even trained it to have some empathy in the process, which is pretty unique. For those of you who haven't done any AI voice demos recently, it's gotten insanely good, I'd say, in the last 6 to 9 months, to the point where the latency and human-like aspects of it are kind of surprising. Fast forward, the client's getting 150, 200 leads per week and has an AI agent answering the phone, an AI agent following up via SMS with form submissions, and just has the team only handling calls with like the warmest leads that are the most qualified, which, back to the productivity and efficiency thing, like I think that little anecdote or story is the best way to kind of share, that's what RevOps is, and that's what we do. Which, like I said, not to discredit any of these other agencies, I think they all do a great job with advertising and creative and marketing. And some of them are even getting pretty deep into the AI solutions that are out there today. But I think we're kind of right in the middle of that spectrum of big enough to be dangerous, but small enough to still be affordable and still quite innovative, especially all things considered with what's coming in the AI world. Anything I shared there that you guys want to touch on or ask about or beat up a little bit more?
No, I don't think so much in that regard, but I think, it'd be interesting to hear both your takes. I know Micah specifically working in RevOps on the deployment side a lot and his background, and then obviously yours, Chris, as being an owner of a revenue operations agency. Why do you think it would be important for someone to consider RevOps as an approach for, say, a traditional media plan or just a digital ad spend barrage? Like, what do you think the value difference is there?
Micah, you want to go first? I have some thoughts.
I also got some thoughts. So I think, one thing that I see with clients a lot is, right, like the need for actual attribution or, sunlight on things, like we talked about earlier. And, most of the time, even at really large companies, you run into data issues. And sometimes it takes an outside consultant who looks at things all day and understands data models and how those efficiencies that, are built into a data model inherently can affect your business and allow teams to work in the way that's most efficient for them and get the best information. And oftentimes, even at enterprise level, right? Like there is an issue with a data model that is not allowing you to connect systems for closed reporting. Or if you're in one particular system, but you didn't know about a specific customization, right? Like the platform expert around that revenue options operations allows you to then adjust your data and what you're collecting and how you're using it and manipulating it in order to get the best insights and results out of it. For example, like healthcare systems really needing a custom object to look at all of their different sites in order to get reporting based off of sites and understand who's working where. And anyone in that industry that sells to that industry, right, needs the same data structure, but really tailored to them. And so without that built out, you are missing all sorts of things. You're creating problems for your system admins, which is inherently creating issues for the rest of your go-to-market teams. And you're not able to either target marketing or, really figure out better lead routing and assignment or, handle the customer service side of things. And so data at its core is it's a foundational piece of RevOps. And that's one of the things that I think a lot of people miss out on is understanding like how important the data is, because businesses generate so many hundreds of thousands, even millions of data points just through operating that is not being leveraged in a way that makes even, a dollar of, return.
I like that summary or explanation, I should say. Another way I like to think about it, and I use this, John's heard me use this line a few times, but there's an old adage in the ad industry. They say, what if 20% of your ads are working, but you don't know which 20%, right? And when you take this approach, what it really boils down to is you could get started with an ad agency, and we probably spend more time talking people out of doing ad campaigns than most agencies, I would say. You guys laugh because it's true. People come to us all the time and they're like, hey, I want to buy Google ads and I see you guys do that. Can you help us? We start asking some questions, obviously, why do you want to do Google ads? Which products, which services, which ones are your most profitable? Which ones keep the lights on? And we really want to get to know them to the point where half the time they're kind of surprised, like, wow, you guys ask a lot of questions. But what we start to figure out and see, I think, oftentimes is they're not ready to run an ad campaign. So they can waste four figures or maybe spend low five figures and build a system so that that which 20% of those ads are working. And that's probably about the results. Like, you could hire the best agency in town and not every campaign's a home run. I think you might see, even the way we like to run ad campaigns, we like to run 4 or 5 different sets of creative and 4 or 5 different offers. And there's so many variables in that equation, right? There's the targeting, there's the offer, there's the landing page, the design, the copy. There's so many variables. And when you're flying blind, the chances of proving out a campaign are so much lower. And then even worse, what if you get lucky and it works? What if you get lucky and you start getting dozens and dozens of calls and form submissions? That's the other problem we see as an agency. Is we have had the problem several times, in fact, where a client pays us to build an ad campaign and we kind of skip some steps and we do it, and then it works and they say, turn the campaign off, we're too busy. Like, what? What do you mean turn it off? Like, we're getting punished for doing good? So I think when you kind of approach it with, the full picture in mind, right? You do the extra steps of planning, like, what does success look like? And what if this does work? Who's going to handle these calls? What's the sales to operations handoff look like? Can we automate aspects of it? If and when, and hopefully it does work, because there's some uncertainty in any marketing or ad campaign, but if and when it does work out, you're building a machine that's more set to grow, right? It's scalable.
That's great answers on both ends. And yeah, I would agree. It's that the foundation of that setup is the most important part, because without it, you might have things performing well and the systems and processes won't be there to support it or to report back to it. And you lose out in the long run. That investment that you made, you may only get a 40% return on that investment versus the full return. And that's really why we say walk before you run when you're looking at that.
Yep. This is a good conversation. Anything you guys want to add before we close it out?
No, just one final parting salvo from me is, just like, regardless, and this is for whoever's listening, think about where technology plays a role in your business, and part of RevOps is making sure that you have the right piece of technology for the right thing that you're trying to accomplish, whether that's, a phone system for your sales team and utilizing something like AirCall, or the right CRM platform, or the right automations tools, anything like that, and figuring out how it fits into your business, but also how does it make you more efficient and impact certain business rules and processes, because there's a lot of good software out there and you can accomplish a lot of the same things and consolidate your tech stack normally. It's really important to talk through the how, the why, and oftentimes not be against migrating to a specific system that will eliminate other pieces of software that are historical, because there are a lot of legacy pieces of software that just are not as good or are not as flexible. It's a big lift to move, but ultimately there are so many insights and other things that you can pull out by moving to configured and built systems, as opposed to trying to hack together something on a legacy system. That might work, but most of the time you will get better results and you can drive more alignment by actually taking time and looking at tech stacks and processes and how it all fits together.
And then, Chris, as a parting gift for everyone, do you want to share a little bit about some of the fun work we've been doing recently with AI, and maybe even offer them up to try that?
Yeah, I think that's a good way to close it out. So, we build a lot of websites. We put together advertising campaigns. We do video production. We do a ton of HubSpot consulting, which is sort of the epicenter of where RevOps rubber hits the road, right, with sales and marketing and service and all those reports. So if you have interest in any of those services, we'd love to help you with all the above. One of the newer things that we've kind of recently added to our toolbox is we've been building custom AI voice agents that we can integrate with CRMs like HubSpot or Go High Level, and custom AI SMS agents. So this started with a fun little office fact here. Nobody likes to answer our phone. It's a job that no one wants to do, and not because we aren't customer service oriented. We love talking to our clients. We love talking to prospects. but we get maybe, let's say, between 5 and 30 calls a day, and 90% of them are solicitations or, people asking us for us to outsource work, that sort of thing. So myself and another member of our team, we went to work and we put together a AI voice receptionist that we've affectionately named Sammy. If you'd like to talk to her about any projects you may have coming up and get a little demo of how this works, give our main line a call, 412-5027. Samuel will ask you some questions about the reason for your call. And if you do try her out, talk to her like a human being. The number one mistake we see, and we do get to hear and see the transcripts and the summaries of all those calls, is, she'll ask you a question like, are you a prospective client reaching out to ask questions about our services, or are you an existing customer who might need some support? And they'll just say support, or they'll say prospective client. Just call and talk to her like a human. Tell her what your problems are and how you think we can help. We have some ground rules that were built into the logic, and we constantly do that consulting with some of our other clients in similar projects where obviously we don't want Sammy making deals or setting pricing. But you can try to get her to do that and see how she handles it. Moments after you end that call, tickets and deal records get created in HubSpot, appropriate team members get Slack notification, and she'll even offer to transfer you to the right person on our team, depending on what your needs are, and after checking their Google calendars to see if they're available. So she's a pretty smart assistant. We've gotten some great feedback on her. We're also building those AI voice receptionists for some of our clients now, because let's face it, that's kind of the payoff of sales and marketing, is generating some phone calls. And as a RevOps agency, we like our clients to be productive and efficient. So keeping you on the phone with the qualified leads is the name of the game. Give Sammy a call and give that a shot to see how we might be able to do that for you, and let us know if we might be able to help you out.